Hello, I am doing a bit of a spontaneous live with Milo here, as always, because I wanted to share a bit of a story about how I became a storyteller with imagery. I've obviously been dropping the fact that, I've got a course that I've been writing all about storytelling, and I wanted to share basically an example of one of my own stories that I have created in photography. To give you a bit of backstory, to about 2 years ago, had never really considered that the shoots I was doing, especially my personal shoots, needed to tell a story. They needed to take the viewer on a journey. They needed to create a little bit of emotion, some connection. That had never occurred to me. I had always heard of people being like, editorial is stories, but it just didn't really click. And then one day I went to see a photography consultant called Zoe Wishaw, who is fantastic, and she's based in London. And if you need someone to really go through your portfolio with you and give you some honest feedback, I highly recommend seeing her. She is absolutely amazing. She's got years and years and years of industry experience, and she knows what she's talking about. And basically, I went to see her and I showed her my portfolio, and she said that my work was good, but that it didn't really do anything other than show pretty girls in clothing. That was it. There was no emotion, there was no story, there was nothing that was really capturing the viewer. And that was hard to hear. That's difficult when you hear that about your work. And obviously I was really proud of the work I'd done, but clearly it wasn't coming through. So I went back that evening and spent about 2 or 3 hours coming up with ideas. And one of the things she told me to do was to look within myself for ideas for shoots. So the first thing I did was start writing down ideas of what has happened to me in my life that I could put into an image. And one of the things I've always considered myself is an artist. I struggle with that term sometimes because as a photographer, I sometimes don't feel like I'm that artistic. I don't really paint, and I can draw-ish, but not really. And I used to actually tell people that I wasn't very creative, which actually isn't true. I am creative, and I've just had to learn how to become creative. So taking this idea of being an artist, or having always wanted to be an artist, because when I was a child I used to daydream about one day being a successful artist. So I took that concept and I was like, okay, let's take the concept of art and being an artist, and how can I use that concept of me wanting to so desperately be an artist and put that into a fashion shoot. So I started to go on Pinterest. This was the first thing that I pretty much always do, and in my course, the Storytelling for Success course, show you in depth how to make a great mood board and the things to be looking up and the things to look for. So I went to Pinterest and I started pinning images of painters, and I found pictures of all kinds of painters, like male painters, painters in all different parts of the world, painters with easels, painters who were drawing, painters in studios, painters out in nature. And it was the pictures of the painters out in nature that really got me excited. So what I did was I actually took a pen to paper and almost wrote myself out a story, which was essentially, it wasn't that long. It was a mini paragraph, probably this big, about a woman who goes out into nature with her easel and her paintbrushes and wants to find the perfect landscape to paint in. So I had that concept, and using the images that I'd seen of painters in nature, I began to storyboard the idea for the shoot. And that shoot happened, and I'm going to show you on my iPad the final images. And you may have seen these before, but I hope that giving the context behind how the images came to life is interesting to you, and the way that I came up with this shoot is the way that I come up with all my shoots, and it's the way that I have ended up putting into this course in detail. So if this is something that you want to learn how to do, that's what this course is all about. It's all about taking a concept that you love and turning it into a photo shoot that is either for your personal work or for a client. It doesn't really matter who you're doing it for, whether it's for your own book or for a client or for a magazine. The theory and the way it works is the same. So here, I hope you can see this. Milo, this was the first image of the series. I'm going to put it above the comments. I know there's glare, I'm sorry there's a window, but I can link to it in my blog. Essentially, I have put together a shoot based on this artist. And as you can see, she's got an easel, she's got a pad of paper. In her bag here, she has paintbrushes that stick out. So for me, it was about thinking about all the little details that I wanted to portray in this shoot. So, you can see all the details here, and I'm just going to scroll through, and that was another one. And I planned this shot. If I don't have the original drawings anymore, which is really annoying, but I had drawn out on paper little stick men, and you've probably seen these before, little stick men of like a girl with a paintbrush. So, that's the example shot of it coming to life there. And this shot, this one is the most special for me, because this one is an image that I had in my head from probably the age of like 8 years old. If you've ever seen any of the Little Women movies, or like the old Little Women movies, one of the little women ends up becoming a painter, and this image was shot before I'd seen the new movie, but the new movie really reminded me of this as well. And I was obsessed with that movie when I was small, and I just wanted to be that girl. So this is basically the reason that she's not looking to camera is because I kind of wish this was me. It's me taking an idea that I have about what I would love and putting it into as close as I can into reality. So that's why it's so fun. And it's got the benefit as well of selling clothing. So all I'm doing is taking a concept that I am inspired by and I love, and using it to then tell a story which helps to sell the clothing. Adding to looking for that perfect location. Here she's sort of sitting on a log looking for something to paint. We all have that moment where we've got like creative block and we're like, oh, it's not quite working, I don't really know what I'm doing. This was meant to show that, like not really knowing where to start. More sort of pensive, and then I wanted to show her actually in the process of doing it, so having that easel in the foreground. Another thing I've had to relearn is about having different situational imagery, so the closer up one with the something in the foreground to really put the situation into the viewer's imagination. Then there was that shot from further away where you could see her in full and see all the landscape around her. Having those different sort of close-ups, mid-shots and big shots is really, really important to tell a full story. Again, this is a close-up, gives it a little bit more you can't see anything, but it's adding to the story even further. Again, it's sort of a mid-shot, and this shot really sells the rings. So not only am I thinking about the story, I'm still thinking about, what do I need to sell here? And what I'm selling is the rings. But the props are super important for this shoot. There are props in every shot, and they all come back to painting and artistry. I'm not going to show you the whole shoot because we'd be here forever, but I hope that has been interesting, just to sort of get a bit of context into how that idea came to me and how I then put it all together and made this editorial. The other thing that's super important for this, and that I had to really, speak to the stylist about ahead of time, was the styling. If the stylist Daisy had turned up with very different kinds of clothing, let's say like really edgy vibes, or anything that was really like dark colours or heavy, it wouldn't have worked. She needed to understand the brief and understand what I was trying to portray in the imagery, and she totally got it. Like, the clothing for this is perfect. I wanted something that was light and feminine and colourful and easy to move in, because an artist would never want to be restricted, you know? So that's really important. And before you even get to a shoot, is to share what you want the styling to do and share that with the stylist. And in my course as well, I've put in loads of detail about how to create proposals and how to really share with your team what you're hoping to achieve and get them on board with that idea. You need to get your team just as involved in your idea as you are, because there's no point of you just being the only one interested and then the rest of the team not really being that bothered because they won't engage with it. I hope that's been interesting. If you have any questions while I'm here, feel free to ask. If not, I'm going to leave a link to the course in the re-upload I do of this later on IGTV. The course is on pre-sale right now, which means it's available to buy until Sunday 6 p.m. At 6 p.m. on Sunday UK time, I'm going to be closing the doors, and the next time I open the doors will probably be in the summer. This course has never been taken before. I've just finished writing it, so it's all finished written up now. It's got 4 modules. It's way more in depth than I thought it was going to be, and I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be a total game changer. It's less about money and less about business and much more about nailing your imagery and getting your imagery super strong, because the reality is that if you have strong imagery, you will attract work, because people want to work with fantastic image makers. I do go into business as well. I do go into like how you can share your work with people and how you can use the work that you create to market yourself. But more than that, it's about creating a fantastic portfolio that you're proud of and learning how to create work that you're really proud of as well. I don't think there are any questions, so I'm just going to leave it there. If you have any questions after you've watched this, feel free to ask away and I will get back to you in your DMs. Have a lovely afternoon and I will see you very soon. Bye!